Call of Duty, Black Ops 3. On October 27, 2065, the player and their partner, Jacob Hendricks, infiltrate a base in Ethiopia to rescue hostages from the tyrannical NRC. They are assisted by Commander John Taylor and his team of cybernetically enhanced soldiers. While the rescue is successful, the player is critically wounded by a combat robot, necessitating the installation of advanced cybernetic enhancements to save their life. The player is also given a direct neural interface, which allows them to not only control their cybernetics, but also directly communicate with machines. With the DNI, the player is given a virtual training inside their mind, with the help of Taylor and his squad mates, Sebastian Diaz, Sarah Hall, and Peter Meretti. Hendricks decides to undergo cybernetic enhancements as well. 5 years later, the player and Hendricks are put under the command of CIA agent Rachel Kane and tasked with investigating a CIA black site in Singapore that has gone quiet. While investigating, they find that the black site has been attacked by the 54 Immortals, Singapore's largest and most powerful criminal organization. After recovering the black site's stolen data, the player, Hendricks, and Kane find out that Taylor and his team were responsible for the attack on the CIA black site. They go to investigate the last location Taylor's team visited, the ruins of Coalescence Corporation's Singapore headquarters, which had been destroyed in a mysterious explosion that killed 300,000 people. The player and Hendricks discover a secret CIA lab hidden under the building, and Diaz, who is wired into the facility's computer systems. The player is forced to kill Diaz to prevent him from leaking secrets to the public. Hendricks connects to Diaz's DNI to try and find information, and discovers Taylor is trying to find the survivors of the Singapore explosion. Taylor then publicly releases the locations of every CIA safe house in the world, forcing the player and Hendricks to rescue Kane from 54 Immortals' retaliation in the Singapore safe zone. The Immortals' leader, Gozilan, attempts to kill Kane and the player to avenge her brother, who was killed in an earlier encounter, but is killed by the player instead. Hendricks begins to suspect that Kane is hiding something from them. The team then heads to Egypt to find Dr. Yusuf Salim, one of the 2 survivors of the explosion. Salim reveals that he had worked on a secret project involving illegal DNA experiments on humans, and that his job was to comfort the emotionally unstable test subjects, using a calming exercise involving imagining a frozen forest. Taylor and his team then capture Salim, interrogate him, and then execute him. With the help of the Egyptian army, the player, Hendricks, and Kane chase after Taylor, killing his remaining team members Hall and Meretti. The player connects with Hall's DNI and discovers that Taylor and his team were infected by an entity called Corvus, a Gestalt intelligence which was inadvertently created during the secret CIA experiments that resulted in the Singapore explosion. Corvus' influence eventually turned Taylor and his team mad, making them obsessed with finding the frozen forest, which Corvus believes is a real place, no matter the cost. The player realizes that both they and Hendricks are infected with Corvus as well, and it is only a matter of time before they fall under its control. The player and Hendricks pursue and confront Taylor in Cairo, where Taylor briefly regains his senses and tears his own DNI out of his head before being killed by Hendricks. However, Hendricks succumbs to the infection and heads for Coalescence Corporation's headquarters in Zurich with the intention of spreading Corvus to every computer in the world. The player and Kane head to Zurich to stop Hendricks, but are hampered when Hendricks hijacks the entire city's computer systems and turns its military drones on the local human defense forces. The player and Kane manage to breach the Coalescence HQ, where it is revealed that the accident in Singapore was caused by experiments with the deadly Nova 6 gas, which the Zurich facility also has a stockpile of. Corvus uses the DNI to trick the player into believing the gas is about to be released throughout Zurich, and Kane is killed when Corvus instead vents the gas into the sealed room she is in. The player continues on and encounters Hendricks, along with the other Coalescence survivor Sebastian Kruger. Just as Hendricks kills Kruger, the player also kills Hendricks. In order to stop Corvus infection, the player tries to kill themselves, but ends up inside a simulated world created within their own DNI. There, the player is reunited with Taylor, who agrees to help the player fight Corvus. Taylor explains that the only way for the player to defeat Corvus for good is to initiate a system purge in their DNI. After fighting their way through Corvus' illusory forces, the player manages to regain control of their body and purges their DNI. As the player stumbles out of the building, security forces arrive and ask the player to identify themselves. The player then responds that their name is Taylor. The briefing of each mission, written in the form of Taylor's journal, reveals that the player was actually dead shortly after their surgery, indicating that every event that happens afterwards is a figment of the player's dying dream, based on Taylor's real experience as he and Hendricks went on a hunt for rogue agent, Dylan Stone, as well as his team, all of whom were replaced with Taylor, Diaz, Paul and Meretti in the player's dream. The summary was that the dream was created the same way the frozen forest was created, for the sake of allowing the player to die peacefully.